Dear friends, we join together this afternoon to remember and to celebrate the life of one who filled our world with his love, his goodness, his spirit, and outstanding example. In humility and gratitude, we turn to the wisdom of our tradition for comfort, for guidance, and for understanding. Throughout the centuries, our people have lifted their eyes to the mountains and asked, what is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, the maker of heaven and earth. Esainai el harim me'ayin yavo ezri. Esainai el harim me'ayin yavo ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai osei shamayim va'aretz. Ezri me'im Adonai osei shamayim va'aretz. I lift up my eyes unto the mountains, from where will my help come? I lift up my eyes unto the mountains, from where will my help come? Adonai, what are we that you have regard for us? What are we that you are mindful of us? We are like a breath. Our days are as a passing shadow. We come and go like grass, which in the morning shoots up renewed, and in the evening fades and withers. You cause us to turn to dust, saying, return, O mortal creatures. Would that we were wise, that we understood whither we are going. For when we die, we carry nothing away. Our glory does not accompany us. Mark the wholehearted, and behold the upright. They shall have peace. For those of you for whom the 23rd Psalm is familiar, I invite you to join with me. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Adonai, who may abide in your house? Who may dwell in your holy mountain? Those who are upright, who do justly, who speak the truth within their hearts, who do not slander others or wrong them or bring shame upon them, who scorn the lawless, but honor those who revere God, who give their word and come what may do not retract, who do not exploit others, who do not take bribes. Those who live in this way shall never be shaken. There is a beautiful poem that appears in our prayer books. And I will recite it now, but I invite you to join in as it is called, the refrain becomes familiar. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we will remember him. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we will remember him. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we will remember him. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we will remember him. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, when we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember him. When we are lost and sick at heart, when we have joys we yearn to share, we will remember him. So long as we live, he too shall live. Bill also will live, for he is now a part of us as we remember him. My dear Lonnie, Mike, grandchildren, dear family, dear friends, there is something symbolic, meaningful, and even mystically appropriate in the timing of Bill Cohen's passing. He and we knew that the end was approaching. As Mike articulated, he knew it was time. He was ready and told us that he was not afraid, that he had lived a good, full life. He continued to give us a lot of gifts in these last weeks. He let us know that he was still here. His mind was sharp, his wit undimmed, always accompanied by his signature wink and sticking out of his tongue. Even as we rejoiced in him, we hated to see his extended decline, and we knew that he could leave us at any moment. But on Saturday evening, as Bill's soul departed, all over the world Jews gathered to light the 5th candle of Hanukkah, and tonight we will light the 7th. During these darkest days of winter, our people celebrate the festival of light, the holiday of hope, the commemoration that speaks to us of fortitude and courage, of resilience in the face of challenge and adversity, of determination and perseverance when confronted by impossible odds, of the strength, vitality, and energy generated by faith and belief in the ideals of freedom, justice, the dignity and worth of every human being. Hanukkah celebrates the power of a single idea to illuminate the whole world, the power of a single individual to make a difference. The first time I met Bill was close to 38 years ago. I had recently arrived in Cleveland as the first cantor of Fairmont Temple and the first woman clergy person of the congregation. Bill was hospitalized for some reason, which I don't remember, and one of our rabbis went to visit him. The unsuspecting rabbi was greeted with, "I don't want to see you. I want the cantor." I went to see him the next day. And thus began a very special, almost 40-year friendship of mutual affection, admiration, and appreciation. I continue to be moved by the image and essence of the man. He led with the light of his presence, his spark of warmth and wit, of care and compassion, of uncommon devotion and commitment. He illuminated our world with his goodness and kindness, his honesty and decency, his tenderness and love. He did not seek our accolades or testimony. On the contrary, he was humble, quiet, and unassuming. He had no ambition for status or position. He wanted to support his family, certainly, but after that he only sought the glow, fervor, and intensity of relationships with his friends, his beloved family, his colleagues, acquaintances, the nurses and staff who cared for him, the stranger who might become a friend for 5 minutes, or more likely, forever. Friends of Jonathan's, who met his grandfather briefly in middle or high school, have shared reminiscences of him with Jonathan, as they were positively and lastingly impacted in just a brief meeting. Yael has had the same experience, as has Lonnie, whose friends go back to elementary school and yet whose memories are just as vivid. Over and over again she has heard, "We loved your father. He was the spark. He lit up our lives with his compassion and caring, his love of fun and food and driving and taking his children and then grandchildren to numerous destinations that became memorable adventures. He lit up our lives with the quiet, simple, dignified way in which he adhered to his values. He was a man of his word and mostly a man of action, as he honored every commitment, every relationship, every situation in which he could assist, help, support, brighten, illumine. As his family shared in his obituary, Bill had a twinkle in his eye and in his personality. He was a Hanukkah hero. We might not have anticipated his illustrious example from his earliest years. As the fourth child of his mother, Dora, who was widowed shortly after her first child, Tilly, was born, he was the third and youngest of Jake and Dora Cohen's three sons, Ben, Max, and then Bill, who was named for Dora's first husband, William. As the child of Eastern European immigrants from Lithuania, Bill grew up in Cleveland, primarily in the close-knit, upwardly mobile, largely Jewish immigrant neighborhood of Glenville on Columbia Avenue, near 105th and St. Clair. The Cohens were never wealthy, but because everyone else needed to eat, Jake's work as a milkman meant that they always had food on the table. As the baby of the family and as a child prone to allergies, Bill was somewhat indulged, pampered, and even spoiled until the Depression struck and defined much of his grade school and growing up years. Bill was only 16 when the United States entered World War II. Upon graduation from Glenville High, he enlisted in the Army. He was shipped out to Europe, but it was so late in the war that he never saw action and came back fairly quickly, although he was there long enough to return with his favorite wartime story, which included, this is the story, I'm not making this up, a ration of condoms, which he did not take because of his inexperience, youth, and naivete, a stolen Jeep for an unauthorized trip to Paris, discovery in Paris, and a rueful regret on the ship back home to the United States when Bill realized, "I forgot to have sex." You can get all the other details from the family. Upon discharge from the Army, Bill was the first one in his family to go to college on the GI Bill. He spent a short time at Ohio State and then transferred to Western Reserve, where he studied business. It is a testament to his loyalty, the depth of his relationships, his hard work, and his expertise that the only job he ever had was in inventory control at American Greetings. He was there for close to 50 years. He was a light of dedication, devotion, constancy, and consistency at work. But the real passion of his life was people. Bill had friends from the old Glenville neighborhood, from grade school and high school. He had Army buddies and college buddies, friends from work, and then neighborhood friends who endured through 3 generations. Their children were friends of his children. Their grandchildren were friends of his grandchildren. By all accounts, the warm, close, communal environment of Cummings Road in Cleveland Heights was very special. The Cohens had a wonderfully open house where the neighbors would gather to watch Peter Pan or The Wizard of Oz on one of the first color TVs in the neighborhood. It was on Cummings that Denise brought home a dog that Dorothy absolutely refused to keep until she was completely worn down by Denise and Lonnie and Bill's total love and embrace of Morgan, who ended up sleeping on Bill and Dorothy's bed. Bill used to happily walk him in the neighborhood, every other hour practically. One neighbor commented to Lonnie that she wasn't sure whether Bill was walking Morgan or Morgan was walking Bill. I hear some laughter of recognition. Long after Morgan was gone, Bill still carried dog biscuits in his pocket, in memory of Morgan, or Moe, as Bill called him, and for any other canine he happened to meet. Bill adored dogs and suggested to Lonnie in just these last few weeks that the inscription, "Lover of Dogs," might be most appropriate on his gravestone. Lonnie brought her beloved dog, Mac, to visit Bill at Montefiore. Just days before he passed away, he became quite agitated. The hospice nurse brought him 2 stuffed animal dogs from the gift shop, which quieted and calmed Bill so that he could smile with the pleasure of them. The presence of dogs was a radiant source of happiness and well-being in Bill's life. He truly glowed with the contentment that they brought him. It was perhaps the inextinguishable light of Bill's humor that kept him together, kept him rational, functioning, grounded, and focused. As Mike attested, he had a terrific sense of humor that brought him to speak in codes with Michael. They had only to look at each other with a wink or an arched eyebrow to understand each other perfectly. They enjoyed talking sports and politics even when they disagreed. Bill always treated Mike as a true son of his heart, never a son-in-law. But then, family meant everything to him. He rejoiced when Denise married Rafi, when his beloved sister Tilly, known as Tidgy in the family, when his beloved sister Tidgy was widowed, he was especially attentive and helpful to her, and forged a close and enduring bond with niece Linda and her Jay. Bill was a loving brother to Ben and his Estelle, and to brother Max, to whom he was especially supportive and attentive. For all of his devotion to his family, when they all gathered at the Cohen table, they became a remarkably loud, boisterous, often argumentative, and unruly group. Bill became very quiet in their presence. It was like a scene from an ethnically, culturally funny movie. In the constellation of his friendships, Bill greatly enjoyed his Wednesday lunch group at Corky and Lenny's, which gradually became his weekly lunch with Walter Wertheim, occasionally joined by grandson Jonathan. He found comfort and even fun with his special friend, his neighbor at Schnurman House, Barbara Roshofsky. She greatly appreciated his thoughtfulness and gentlemanly manner, while he appreciated her kindness and how special she made him feel. At Montefiore, Bill joined a men's club and went on a crusade to restore challah to Shabbat dinner. He also had the good fortune to meet John Parker, his brother from another mother. Bill was completely lucid until the very end, and so was able to form friendships, interact with the nurses, take advantage of the programs and classes, and find some spark of enjoyment and enlightenment in his everyday. He was dating someone else, who decided that she needed to concentrate on her career. She liked him so much, however, that she fixed him up with her friend, Dorothy Kaplan. They went out on 3 dates, and Bill proposed. Dorothy had 2 conditions. She had to keep teaching, which she did in our religious school for many years with her co-teacher, Phyllis Burles, with whom she was such a good friend. And she had to keep teaching, and she needed a telephone. They were married on December 18th, 1955, and soon welcomed Denise and Alana into their family circle. Wonderful daughters who became exceptional women with the strength, values, devotion, kindness, and loving natures of their parents. It was a special gift for Bill and Dorothy when Yael, Rachel, Jonathan, and Zachary arrived. They were very present grandparents. It is a real treat to hear Bill's grandchildren speak about him and how much he has meant to them. He loved to go to Grand Rapids for special celebrations, events, and programs. When he was there for Rachel's bat mitzvah and then for Zachary's bar mitzvah, he would sit on the couch where he would proceed to make friends with every person who came by. Bill loved to drive and loved to go on outings. Welly and Jonathan had the good fortune to go on the lion's share of them, but any outing with Bill was an occasion to remember, as he drove to Amish country for cheese and chocolate, and out to Burton in March for pancakes with maple syrup. He did these outings with his daughters. He did them again with his grandchildren. At this time of the year, Denise and Lonnie would get into their jammies and go to Neela Park to see the Christmas lights. Yael remembers going to the theater when she was growing up, especially to musicals, which they would research and listen to before going. Bill would take them to Mally's Chocolate Factory for ice cream just about anywhere. Tilly and Linda joined the outings to Niagara Falls, where he was fascinated by the docks at Welland Canal. Jonathan remembers one special summer when Yael was away and he had his grandpa all to himself. They went to the Botanical Gardens, the Vienna Store, Hershey, Pennsylvania, Lakeview Cemetery, Euclid Beach Park, Chagrin Falls, the Case Western Crawford Auto Museum, the National History Museum, just to name a few. These were all of Bill's favorite destinations, with any combination of children and family in tow. He loved burnt food. He loved food, but he loved burnt food, and would cook almost anything until there was no sign of life left in it. I think that was the phrase Mike used. In the burger, potatoes, the kugel, of which the corner piece was always his. It is still difficult for everyone who knew him to understand how he sustained the grievous loss of his eldest daughter. We all watched in horror and incredulity as her illness claimed her. As devastating as her loss was to all of her loved ones, there is no question in anyone's mind that her death completely undid Dorothy. With her deterioration, we could not help but marvel at Bill, whose sense of loss was no less great, but who somehow found the strength not only to care for Dorothy every single day, but to continue to be there for Lonnie and Mike, Rachel and Zachary, for Rafi, and especially for Yael and Jonathan. He understood at a visceral gut level how lost and confused Denise's children and husband had to be. And he tried, with his whole heart and soul, to fill some kind of parental role for them. For all of Jonathan's middle and high school years, Bill would be at the house on Shaker every day when Welly and he came home from school, and then just for Jonathan. It is hard to imagine how Jonathan would have managed those years without his grandfather's constant, supportive, sensitive, thoughtful, and unconditionally loving presence in his life. Denise's death broke Bill's heart. The day of her death was the worst day of his life. It cast a dark shadow over the light of his spirit. Like the Maccabees, however, he sustained the tiny spark that remained, because he knew that others depended upon him, and because his optimistic nature, sorely challenged as it was, ultimately re-emerged. The loss of his daughter, the inexorable loss of his wife, shook him to his very core, but he knew who he was, what he believed, and how he had to conduct himself. He was the gentle goof, the kind-hearted, devoted, constant, silly, remarkably strong, lovingly humorous, and always loving Bill Cohen. He had a sparkle, a light that refused to go out, and that will continue to shine brightly in our hearts and minds and actions. He left a sacred legacy of doing and caring and loving. He taught us with every breath and to his last breath what it means to be a human being. Zichrono livracha. May the memory of this sparkling soul continue to light our way. And let us say, Amen. O God, you give us loved ones and make them the strength of our life, the light of our eyes. They depart and leave us bereft on a lonely way, but you are the living fountain from which our healing flows. To you the stricken look for comfort and the sorrow-laden for consolation. O God, we see life as through windows that open on eternity. We see the love endures and the soul endures, as you, O God, endure forever. We see that the years are more than grass that withers, more than flowers that fade. They weave a timeless pattern in a world that is the dwelling place of your love and glory. Please rise. מלא רחמים, שוכן במרומים. המצא מנוחה נכונה, תחת כנפי השכינה. עם קדושים וטהורים, כזורקיה מזהירים את נשמת שמואל בן ינגול ודורה שלח לעולמו. בעל הרחמים יסתיריה בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויתרבץ החיים את נשמתו. אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח בשלום על משכבו, ונאמר Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to William S. Cohen, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. The family would want you to know that they will be returning immediately to Fairmont Temple following internment at Mayfield Cemetery. And for those who wish, you may contribute to the Denise Hami Bookshelf, care of the Fairmont Temple Library, or to the Maltz Hospice at Montefiore.